Well, the Education Secretary is going to join us now, and we're going to talk to her about sex education at the moment, but we can start by talking about financial education.
Which we don't really have enough of in schools, might I say.
No, but it's an important part of the curriculum.
Marriage, you have great sex education.
So, Secretary of State, do you have a joint bank account with your partner, and would you advise it to the nation?
I do have a joint bank account with my husband, and I also have we have individual accounts as well, actually, which is probably just historical. Yes. But yeah, we do. We use a joint account mostly.
We're told that these days everybody should have a prenuptial agreement and separate bank accounts to be ready for when the relationship goes wrong. What's your view of that?
Well, I didn't take that approach, so I don't have a prenup, and I do have a joint bank account. And also we're very happy, like you and Yvette, so we don't row about money either.
Good.
Oh, that's good. There is a bit of a row about your sex education policy, though, isn't there? Look, there are plenty of head teachers and so on saying, look, what problem are you trying to solve by saying that children sex education won't be taught to children under 5? Because it generally isn't anyway. And that the idea of this contested theory of gender identity won't be taught at all in these new guidelines for schools announced by the government today. Some are saying, actually, that's a sort of step backwards because that's out of step with... Essentially, children are accessing all of this information anyway, and if they can't feel free to ask those questions in school, then where are they going to get that information from?
Right. So, well, first of all, children can always feel free to ask any questions, and obviously teachers know how to deal with that. What problem we're trying to solve here is we released the Relationship, Sex and Health Education Guidance in 2019. It was made statutory in 2020. We did a review, or Ofsted did a review of that, and to see how it was embedded and how it was working in 2021. And as a result of that, a number of teachers and head teachers said it would be helpful to have more clarity of what's appropriate at what age, particularly between primary, secondary, early secondary, and then later in secondary. So we appointed an independent expert panel. Obviously, I didn't do this myself, with a group, a mix, different backgrounds in this space, and they have gone through and said, this is how you basically make sure it's age appropriate. But the other important thing this guidance is doing is we didn't have it clear enough that parents needed to have access and should have access to what their children are being taught in school. And there were some cases about schools not being sure because of copyright laws and some of the materials not getting shared, etc. And we heard some reports of that as well. So we just wanted to make it clearer for parents as well that they have the right to see the materials. They're the first educators of their children in this subject. They often are the first people to talk about these subjects to their children. So we wanted to make sure that they also had access to what their children were learning in school.
This has been a subject we've been discussing for a long time. We tried to legislate for this back in 2010, and then finally, as you say, came onto the statute book in 2020. And the way we make laws is that we consult and then we update them, and the changes you're making about clarity, around parental engagement, all of those seem very sensible. The thing which is kind of striking, though, is the attempt to turn this into a bigger political argument, and in particular, the idea that gender ideology is something it's suggested is being promoted by teachers. Teachers are telling children they have to choose between 72 different genders, that the teachers are telling children as young as 5, 6 and 7 they can choose to be a boy or a girl. And I think lots of head teachers and teachers are a bit mystified by this because they've not seen that in their schools. They're not sure why this is suddenly a big debate. Do you have evidence on that particular issue that there is a huge problem in our schools? Are our head teachers and teachers getting it badly wrong?
No, our head teachers and teachers, by and large, will be doing a brilliant job at this, and relationship, sex and health education will be being taught very well in our schools. But what we have done since this guidance in 2019 was first published is we have also published the gender questioning guidance, which was the first time, obviously, we've published that in response to what is a phenomena that is something that has massively grown in a very, very short period of time. So as a result of that guidance, which we published for consultation in December, the learnings and some of the things that we have clear in that guidance, we've also made sure, for clarity's sake, that they are also in this guidance so that they're consistent.
But you're not trying to play party politics with this. Clearly, some people are, But you as Education Secretary, you aren't seeking to turn this into a political fight.
No, what I'm trying to do is be helpful. I never at any point thought that I'd be, introducing gender questioning guidance and updating relationship, sex and health education guidance. But when there's a need and it's helpful to head teachers, teachers and to parents, then obviously it's my job in a leadership role to do that. And I'm responsive to that, so that's what I've done.
Yeah.
But no, it's not. It's a serious subject. We've dealt with it very seriously. We have, issued this guidance out for consultation. We've got the consultation responses back, and then we'll obviously be publishing that in the near future. But they have to work together.
Yeah, you say you're being helpful. What perhaps might be more helpful to be talking about is teacher recruitment, especially on the day that Keir Starmer's launching his 6 pledges, one of which is to recruit 6,500 new teachers. And yet, under this government, recruitment at secondary level is going to miss its target by perhaps 40%. 10 out of 17 secondary subjects will not have enough teachers in this country. Primary schools are also woefully behind in their recruitment. That is the real issue, isn't it? And so when the unions claim that you're turning this issue today of sex education in schools and gender identity into a political football, they've got a point, because you're not really talking about the issue that truly matters, which is teacher recruitment and retention.
Oh, I talk about that a lot. And actually, we have a recruitment and retention workforce, a task force, which is working up a lot of things at the moment. But just to be clear, since 2010, we have 27,000 more teachers in our schools and 59,600 more teaching assistants in our schools, probably in response to the growth in special educational needs in our schools. And just compare and contrast that with what Labour have done in Wales, because we do have Labour running education in Wales as the Conservatives are running education in England. They have gone down in the number of teachers in Wales. So, they just need to look at the track record. Now, this 6,500, so basically we've recruited way more than that. And the numbers which we do set our targets, and it is a difficult recruitment market, don't include returners, by the way, which have 13,500 returners, and also other routes into the profession, which I've introduced, such as teaching degree apprenticeships, which some of those fabulous teaching assistants may want to use to upskill.
So why are you still missing your targets then? You've been in power for 14 years. This is an election year. Surely you should have more to offer to teachers themselves than saying we were better than they were.
Well, the biggest offer, actually, which we had in our manifesto was a £30,000 starting salary for all teachers, wherever you are in the country. And now, in some places, that could be a starting salary of into the 40,000s if you're teaching certain subjects in certain locations, because there's a bit of a difference around the country, in London, inner London, outer London, and other parts of the country. But that was a very important part. And actually, we haven't published yet this year's, but we're getting a good response to that. And that's we only introduced that for the first time September last year, and it was announced in July. So you haven't really seen that come through the figures at the moment. But we do work with the unions and others to make sure that teaching is a really attractive profession.
We're up against our hard stop for Lorraine. So thank you so much indeed for coming along on our programme today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.